Writer's block is a strange phenomenon. Let's start with talking about what it means. Many writers and poets refer to writer's block as a period of time where they feel unable to write anything, that things aren't coming out or are not flowing, as in they are blocked. Part of the block is similar to a wall that the ego has built around itself, a metaphorical block that is placed between the unconscious part of our minds, which is where the well of our inspiration and knowledge and symbol generating comes from, into the conscious part of our minds, or we're restricting the flow probably more aptly from the unconscious part of our minds through our pens or hands when we're tapping or writing what it is that ends up becoming a poem or a piece of writing. This is the opposite of what it feels like when you're in a highly inspired state of mind and you're in flow. The block is solid and feels impenetrable for something deeper to come out of us, but when we are in flow, it's a lot easier for us to just keep going. It's like when we're in a great conversation and everything's just coming out really effortlessly. One person's talking, the other's listening, you have a response straight away and you feel like you're really connected. So the goal of overcoming writer's block is to bring ourselves back to a state of flow so that the block is no longer there. There can be plenty of good reasons why we're not feeling as inspired sometimes as we are others. One thing to say about writer's block is that it's not deterministic of your self-worth. If you're not in a period of rich writing, that is okay, because you can look at it as you're in a period of rich researching or living life or looking at things. Berating ourselves for not writing at the time or thinking, I haven't written a poem, I can never do it, nothing's coming out, this is so hard, and all these other little stories we tell ourselves actually reinforces the block that we feel. The way I think of it is, if you are wanting to get into a house and you're spending all the time pushing as hard as you can against the brick, you're just exerting energy and not actually getting into the house. Whereas the simpler method, which is more akin to the flow, would be to open the door. There are plenty of good reasons why we might feel writer's block, or we might feel lower on energy when we come to writing, because we have things going on in our lives. You know, you might have college, or you might have a child that's keeping you up, or you are particularly busy at work and it's burning you out. It's completely normal to go through the ebb and flow of life, where sometimes you're more switched on and more able to express yourself because you have more time and energy, and other times where you feel more switched off and sluggish and it's more difficult to get into the creative flow. That being said, there are ways to overcome writer's block, and my first challenge to that is, ironically, even though it's the name of the video and even though I've used that term thus far, to really bring in the solid sense of block and the liquid sense of flow. I find it a lot easier to call it writer's dam. To my mind, that creates something that's more active. If you are currently in a blocked stage, as in you're not writing at the moment, but you're living your life and researching and reading and doing all that other stuff, there's a flow of water behind that's building up, that's getting ready for the dam to burst into something more creative, which can then lead to writing or lead to writing a poem. So I guess the one thing I'd like for you to think about is the reframing of what block is to you, in a similar way that I'm talking about a dam, which is something that you can use if it resonates. One thing I would call for is to call writer's block something different, to not reinforce the idea that there is such thing as a writer's block. Now, I know this is in the title of the video and I've been using it thus far because I know it's a concept that we all kind of understand, and it does make sense in some respects when we mention writer's block to another writer, but I think as writers or poets, we're also here to change and refresh the metaphors that we use. So think about something else that you can call it that might be more productive in your mind's eye or imagination. Here are 5 things you can do to help you overcome, reframe, and melt writer's block. Number 1, sit for 5 minutes with a timer and picture the block in your head. Especially if you're unsure how to reframe it, sit with the image and just breathe with it, and even ask it questions. Why are you blocking me? What don't you want me to know? Or, what are you trying to show me? Whatever it may be. And spend some time with it to see if the symbol does transform into something else. Number 2, read other poets. If you're stuck for writing a poem and you want to get into the rhythmic mindset of poetry, reading another poet may be the exact source of inspiration that you need at the time. And you don't just have to read them in your head or even read them aloud. You can also take a line from the poem that you're reading and use it as a springboard to write a new poem. You can write in response to that poem, and that way you don't have to start from an empty or blank page. You can start from something that is already there. You could also write down a few images or words that really resonate within those poems or that poem that you can use also to build into your own. Poetry also affects our physiology in a similar way that music does, though there are some key differences. So if you click the link above, you can learn all about how poetry affects the body. Number 3, try a different creative expression, and if you want, build in the idea of block into that. By doing so, you can either dance, or you can draw, or you can sing, or you can do any number of things that might help you move through that block. If you're constantly feeling overall creative block, then perhaps you can just write a letter to the writer's block, or whatever it is that you've reframed it as, and say, "Dear writer's block, I want you to go away because," or whatever it is that resonates for you. Doing so will change and shift your relationship to the block. It will stop the block from feeling like it has all the control over you, and that you can maybe address it and dialogue with it in a new or refreshing way. You can also consider putting on music that you're less familiar with, or a scent in the room, or you can stare carefully at a piece of art or even a tree or something in nature that can give you a newfound sense of appreciation or creativity from a source outside of writing itself. Number 4, make a promise to your unconscious mind that you're going to trust whatever it brings up for you. As we was talking about earlier, like one of the reasons why we block ourselves is because it's a message that will otherwise come to us, but the ego part of our mind is like, no, I don't want to hear that, or I'm not ready for it. By literally telling that part of your brain that you're ready to hear what it wants to tell you, that can remove the obstacle that you're putting in the way. You can think of this as getting more into a dreamlike state when you're opening the dialogue channels with the deeper part of your mind, because the symbol creation and effortlessness of writing can come back in. For more on poetry and dreams, click the link above. Number 5, stream of consciousness exercise. Now for this, what you need to do is grab a notepad, grab a pen, turn off your phone, and set a timer, if you have a timer, for 5 minutes. If not, no worries about the timer, but just sit down with a pen and paper and make the pact to yourself, I'm going to write as fast as possible. Do not think about what you're writing. Do not worry about the part of your brain that's judging you, that's going, is this any good? Is this useless? Blah, 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 blah. That's the ego trying to put a block in the way again and not wanting to find something out. So just start writing, and the faster you write, the better. When you finish that exercise, there are going to be things in that writing that will surprise you. Maybe you'll find an image, maybe you'll find a phrase, maybe you'll find an emotion you were not fully aware of within that, and then you can use that to springboard your writing again. So stream of consciousness, write without thinking. It's the thinking that gets the blocks in the way in the first place. Cognitive thinking, anyway. I'm not an advocate for like never thinking in life, but writing is often more intuitive and engages different parts of us beyond just thinking. There we have it. There's 5 things to overcome writer's block, or writer's dam, or whatever it is that you want to call it. Now I want to hear from you. What do you do to overcome writer's block? What ideas do you have to reframe it and call it something else? Are you currently in a period of your life that you find the flow is coming naturally and constantly coming out of you, or do you find yourself struggling to express yourself? I love when the brain plays like quirky tricks on itself when you're trying to make a point, and it's like attempts blocks you, and you kind of do the exact opposite. I'm like, it's all about flow. That's where I think my occasional stutter comes from, though I'm not sure that's become evident in this video. Let me know in the comments below. For more videos on poems, poets, craft and poetry and more, please click a like, hit the subscribe button. It really helps, not just with the YouTube algorithm, but I appreciate it if you do so. And so does my wife Rachel behind the camera. I love giving her a shout out because she does all this work, and she's like, stop giving me credit. It's like, it's all about you. And I'm like, yes. No, it's about her. And lastly, for other blogs, prompts, poetry theory, local events, and anything else, if you go into the description, you can sign up to our mailing list. Thank you so much, and happy or grief-filled or joyful or whatever, writing, whatever feels right. Bye.
Cheery. Happy grief-filled writing.
Well, it depends what you want to write about. Anything else?
Thanks for watching. See you on a Sunday.
Thank you for watching. See you on Sundays, where we'll be continuing our uploads as we took a break for Christmas and then we got COVID. Can this end now?
Are we allowed to say COVID on YouTube?
What?
This Blooper Reel is gonna be great.
Feel out of practice. 2024, new year, new me, new us. Are you not going to give me a, right, you're ready? You're going to give me a roaring team talk? You're my hype wife. Getting a nod. I must have said something that made sense. Okay, good.
Great.
Metal.
I love the energy.
Thank you.
You look really good.
Thanks. Writers. Overcome and reframe. 5 ways to reframe and melt writer's block. I want to be ever more silly in front of the camera because why not?
Say, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. More ASMR than them. We learnt that at school. Fucking amazing. Anyway, you look like you're going to say something, so I saw you smile. You're just like this behind the camera. Please hammer the like, kick the crap out of the subscribe button like this. This is actually a really good way to punch. I used to do karate and this is not how we learn. But, you know, maybe we... There you go. What am I saying? Yeah. You happy? Is that enough? Alright. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know how that went, but it went. At least it's funny.